Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason. I'm here to bring the retrospective for Kevin Lee versus Charles Oliveira, with Charles Oliveira defeated Kevin Lee in the third round. We had a pretty good night overall. We went 2-1 on the Patreon, so we were in the money on those. We were 7-4 overall for about 64% accuracy. We had an amazing night on what was kind of a weird card due to the lack of fans surrounding the pandemic going on right now. Just, a lot of things were up in the air. I'm hoping to keep bringing you shows, retrospective fight picks, and the like. But let's get into it. Here's the show. All right, before we get into the actual card itself, just kind of want to address the kind of future of the show and how things stand. So all of the future events for the UFC, including UFC London, which is still supposed to go down, is very, very much up in the air. And as the UFC goes, kind of as goes the Fighting Spirit Podcast, except I will make it a point to release more whiskey and beer reviews in the meantime. That's something I could certainly do with social distancing and the quarantine and all that. Not that I'm locked down or anything. It's just that things are a little weird out there, and I just will try to keep some content coming out. I mean, hey, you people out there might not have anything to do. I'll keep giving you the best I have. So I definitely have a selection and a stock. I'll get some new beers, whatever the case may be. We'll keep putting out content regardless of the UFC, but obviously it won't be any fight picks, retrospectives, and anything else. So content will continue to come. However, it's just not going to be UFC related. It just can't be. Maybe I'll talk about some news. We'll do something. We'll keep things coming along. It's a really weird time. 2 weeks ago, everything was fine, smooth sailing. I attended a big video game convention, PAX East, and it's like 100,000 people that go through there. And now all of the events bigger than like 250 people are being shut down. So things are very, very weird right now. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with the UFC. I assume that we'll still get some fights over at the Performance Institute or at the Apex Center or what have you. I think that's how we may have to watch like the Tony versus Khabib card, but we'll see. That's all very much in the future and is hard to predict. I just don't see it honestly taking place at the Barclays Arena though in Brooklyn in about a month. But hey, maybe in 2 weeks a lot of this will blow over. People will go back to buying toilet paper and water in sensible quantities, and everything will be fine. Hopefully. That's the hope right now, is that this thing will kind of blow over, that by people, shutting down a little bit, we'll reduce the number of new cases, and we'll go back to regular society, which is kind of the scariest thing about this whole thing. It's just how long will it be to return to normal. And I think that's what we really should all be afraid of for us that are healthy. Or if you're a pretty healthy individual, I don't think you have anything to fear from the coronavirus itself. But obviously, loved ones and other people that are not as healthy, they certainly are at risk. And I definitely have gotten off track here. Instead of talking about the coronavirus, let's go on to the retrospective here. I'm not sure many of you tune in for that. If you like the ramblings, though, write in. I think, we're approaching a point where we're probably going to need to have a little bit of a ramble cast just to get some content out there. So anyways, as I said in the intro, Charles Oliveira defeats Kevin Lee. I really wanted Kevin Lee to win this one. I really liked him in this fight. I like Kevin Lee in general, but his record has been shaky lately, and Charles Oliveira has been like a buzzsaw through the lightweight division. He was my pick. Obviously, we got that one incorrect. But Oliveira, he was explosive in the first round, throwing, jumping kicks, flying knees, you name it. He was throwing it. He was walking Lee down. He was not afraid of the power. And he, was chaining submissions together. Granted, Lee's top game, his wrestling side, his ability to score takedowns, looked good, but that's kind of what caught him in the trouble, is he tired. People talk about it, and, this actually came up on the Facebook page from, I believe, Brett. He had mentioned that Kevin Lee's gas tank is nigh, it doesn't exist. And yeah, I'm willing to 100% agree with you entirely. I thought that TriStar Kevin Lee was going to come out there with a little bit better stuff, but it was a tough night for TriStar in general with losses to Lee and Johnny Walker as well. So I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know, what's going on in general with Kevin Lee. His cardio isn't quite there. His skill set was pretty good, but his hands looked really bad. He was not able to keep up the pace with Oliveira. Oliveira was very comfortable walking into him and just, cracking him one after another. Kevin Lee was slightly outstruck, but I would say all of the power, all the big shots were landed by Oliveira, who only had 2 additional strikes over Lee. And then obviously on the ground, I thought Lee looked okay. He definitely was hurting Oliveira a little bit of ground and pound, but Oliveira seemed to take it in stride. At no point did I think he was looking to crack. He was just looking to chain submission after submission if they became available. So Oliveira's on a cruise control to the upper echelons of the lightweight division, and what's next for Kevin Lee, I honestly don't know. But I would like to speculate, and I just want to throw this out there. So my sports book was closed that I go to, so I wasn't able to gamble on these. If you were able to, you definitely made money if you're on the Patreon or if you took most of my picks. But the whole situation like we were talking about a little while back, I think could have affected some of the fighters here tonight. I mean, they were in a weird fanless arena. They are obviously have people at home they could be concerned about. They're having to fly and travel, and there's just a lot of things up in the air right now. And I know Kevin Lee didn't make weight. I don't know if that, all of this sort of stuff could have affected a guy like Kevin Lee or Damian Maia or John Makdessi or anybody that lost here tonight. It could have affected people that won too. It's just, there was intangibles here that I couldn't account for with numbers. And so, even though we made money, I was hesitant to put money on this. And then, hey, my sportsbook ended up closing down anyways because the casino's closed. And, that's just kind of where things stand. So we're in a little bit of limbo regarding that. But like I said, if you were able to get out there, hats off to you because we still came through here at the Fighting Spirit. We're still giving the best picks in the biz. All right. So anyways, we got that one incorrect. But like I said, weird night of events. Then in the next one, Gilbert Burns knocks out Damian Maia. This was a pretty quick fight, 2.5 minutes. Gilbert Burns just clips him on the chin. He goes down. And, I thought that Burns shouldn't have had to do anything else, but the ref let Maia sit in his back for a bit. I think he was just giving Maia respect to continue. He didn't necessarily know if he just went down to, trap Burns into his guard. I think that was a fair thing. But then Burns got off, 6, 7, 8 shots onto Maia before the ref jumped in. I think it could have been a little quicker than that to, prevent extra damage to Maia. But Maia did score a couple takedowns. He looked okay up until it got back to the feet. And that's where the younger, more dynamic Gilbert Burns, the hard-hitting Gilbert Burns, as I called him in the original podcast, took over. And so we picked up a W there. Next one, we also picked up another W. Quick event, 44 seconds in. Renato Moicano scores a rear naked choke against Damir Hadzovic. Hadzovic, a boxer, the Bosnian bomber, just had nothing to really offer for Moicano on the ground, and he puts him to sleep 44 seconds in. There was some weirdness between them after the fight. I'm not really sure what happened. Moicano was basically in the face of Hadzovic. And I don't know if they had some kind of words at weigh-ins or something, but Moicano was just on another level. And hopefully he will go through this new lightweight division for him like a buzzsaw. I like seeing Moicano. I like him as a fighter, and maybe this is now his division. So we'll see what happens. Hell, he could even be on a crash course to face Charles Oliveira in the future. We will see how things play out. In the next one, we got this one incorrect. I think a lot of us did. Johnny Walker lost to Nikita Krylov. Johnny Walker did not look like his hugely dynamic self, but he spent most of the match on his back. Krylov did not let Walker get explosive. He put him on the mat as quickly and as often as possible, taking away all of, I think, Johnny Walker's best assets, his explosiveness, his athleticism. It's not so much his technical aptitude. We haven't had to see him get into a real technical match. And this was one where he did not fare well on the ground. So he picks up a unanimous decision loss, and it's a win for Krylov and a loss for us. And next one, Francisco Trinaldo defeats John Makdessi. So this was the one Patreon fight that did lose. I had said it on the podcast that I was going with the most successful metric. This one had Makdessi. The other ones had Trinaldo. So just bear that in mind. We also got the other one right, though. So it was kind of 1-1 on those picks with Dos Santos defeating Konchenko. But let's get back to Francisco Trinaldo and Makdessi. Trinaldo, he's still incredible for 42 years of age. His striking, his ability to score damage on Makdessi, was amazing. Makdessi seemed hesitant to get inside, and even though he outstruck Trinaldo, I thought they were only small point shots. He never really put everything he had into it to try to get the better of Trinaldo, and if you don't do that to Trinaldo, if you don't hurt him, if you don't break him a little, he's going to run you over like a goddamn Mack truck, and that's exactly what happened. Every chance Trinaldo had, he threw a big shot to ring Makdessi's bell, and Makdessi did hang on, but he was just beaten badly, I think, in this contest despite being outstruck. In the following contest, we had Brandon Moreno defeat Jussier Formiga, and this one was an excellent fight. I thought Moreno looked very competent on the ground against such a dynamic Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist like Formiga. Formiga did get a couple submission attempts, but Moreno kept it together. He looked amazing. He looked like he was definitely at the top of this flyweight division, and his hands are good. His groundwork is good. This is a Mexican fighter that is going places, and I was really happy to make this call. This was also another Patreon pick as well, an underdog pick, and he made money for us. I was really happy to make that decision. In the following one-sided affair, Amanda Ribas defeats Ronda Marcos in what was just a just one-sided beating, 85-36. Not really much else to say here. I think that Ronda was not adequate competition for Amanda Ribas at this point. This was just an Amanda Ribas strawweight showcase. We'll have more to say, I think, when she gets into her next fight, which will be a real opponent. But this was just a buzzsaw. I think she's one of the most heavily favored fighters on the card, and we called that one correct. And the next one we called correct, Elizeu Zaleski, or Capoeira Santos. Let's just go with Capoeira. Defeats Alexei Kunchenko. Very close fight. Dos Santos did outstrike and outpoint Kunchenko with 2 takedowns. Kunchenko looked pretty decent, but like we said, he's not the knockout artist that we all thought he was coming out of the Russian organizations. He is not fighting cans anymore. He is not fighting journeymen. He's fighting the best in the world. And a guy like Dos Santos is the best in the world, and he was not able to climb the mountain known as Capoeira Santos. Kunchenko wasn't. And he picks up an L on the night, and we pick up a great W. In the following contest, we had a majority draw between Hani Yahya and Enrique Barzola. Very tight fight. I thought that Hani Yahya was winning 1 and 2, but the beatdown in round 3 was so one-sided. Enrique Barzola just put it on Yahya in such a devastating way. I mean, his ground and pound was phenomenal. He outstruck him 2-1, and this was an amazing decision here. Even though I thought that Yahya was going to get the nod for being Brazilian in Brazil, without the crowd there, without any kind of influence, I think the judges were free to make the best decisions possible. We got some of the best judging we've ever had in a UFC contest that took place in Brazil or anywhere else in the world. This definitely deserved to be a draw because of that 10-8 round that Barzola scored, and I was very happy I guess it's a draw, so we're not really counting it on the metric. But either way, I think Barzola probably could have won this fight if he just had maybe taken the second round a little more seriously, or the first round, because he drained the gas tank of Yahya. And then the last couple contests here, we had Marna Moroz defeat Mayra Bueno Silva. This one, I didn't really know who was going to win. I gave out my best pick, ended up being Moroz. She's just a little bit better than Bueno Silva. But Mayra did look good. She tried to hit some hard shots on Moroz in the third round, but Moroz would not go down. She could not be defeated, and Silva was not able to pick up a W, and we were not either. The last two we were able to call correct. David Dvorak defeats Bruno Silva. He outstrikes him despite being taken down 3 times by Silva. He still picks up a unanimous decision. And then the last fight here, or the first one, depending on how you look at it, Bam Malecki defeats Veronica Macedo, outstriking her 130-93 in a solid unanimous decision victory. That was also the last or first Patreon fight pick as well. So we nailed Malecki, Moreno, and missed Makdessi. So the 3 M's, we got 2 out of the 3 M's tonight, and because they were all underdogs, we were in the money, and even though might not have been a heck of a whole lot, we still did pretty well, and that's what it's all about, coming out on the positive side for each and every one of these events, either with the Patreon picks or the overall. And like I said, 63.63, so 64% accuracy on the night. Great stuff. More than happy to bring it to you. And yeah, that kind of brings us to the end of this show. So I don't know where the Fighting Spirit stands at this point as far as the Fight Night Woodley versus Edwards card. I'm going to wait and see what comes out. I'll probably be crunching the fights tomorrow night. I think a lot of these fights will take place, but I can see this entire card being canceled. I'm not sure what the travel restrictions are right now from the other parts of the world to the UK and vice versa. I think this card is ultimately very, very much up in the air at the moment, despite supposedly still being on to take place on the 21st in London, England. So in the event this fight takes place, you'll end up with normally scheduled fight picks. They'll be coming out on Tuesday like normal. Otherwise, we'll sneak in a beer or whiskey review at that point to continue the contest. We'll probably do one a week until the UFC comes back, and we'll just keep doing those. I actually have one in the can that's going to get released for St. Patrick's Day. It's actually going to be put together, I think, the same time as this podcast, but I'll release that a little bit later than this one. I'm probably going to put it out on Monday for the St. Patrick's Day. It's a good Irish whiskey. It's interesting stuff, and so we'll get that out. I got pictures already taken. We'll put that together, and we'll get it out to you guys. So I guess that'll probably actually be the content for this week, assuming that we're not going to have any event, and then we'll come back with another whiskey review for the following week or beer review. So I promise to keep the content coming. I promise to give you guys the best fight picks in the biz, as I like to say around here, when the cards are taking place. So stay safe out there. Don't panic. Pay attention to the news. Wash your hands. All that fun stuff. Just, don't go around licking, subway poles. Don't go around coughing in people's faces. Don't buy a year's supply of toilet paper when you see some on the shelves. Let everybody get their fair share. Things will go back to normal. Don't get outrageous. Stay calm, and everything will be fine. At least that's what I'm hoping for, and eventually it will return to normalcy. So until I speak with you again next time on whatever the heck show we end up releasing, happy fight picking.